Hi, everybody. This is day 1701 days since Richard was systematically, premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss in the line of duty, in the line of duty, not by his own hand, not by any wrongdoing of his own. This was confirmed by the Department of Defense. It was absolutely by someone else's hands. This is a murder on Fort Bliss. And why? Because Richard was reporting the cartel tied criminal trafficking. And it has been a wild day because yesterday, this is, Richard's case became, I believe, this is my opinion, became the biggest scandal in U.S. Army history. Yesterday, Richard's case became the biggest U.S. Army scandal in history. That's my opinion. It's huge. And I have, uh, you know, uh, a mountain of robust evidence, files and files and files that we have submitted to all the agencies and institutions to corroborate what we just said. Um, and we have shared those with Bob Moore. We have shared those with Bob Moore. Um, Lots of evidence, and he knows better. And just to give you a little bit of background with the Patrick Crucius Walmart mass shooting case, and make sure that I'm on here and everyone can see. Okay, thank you so much, Anicia, for coming on, because it's just all blowing up. It's just going crazy to keep up with all the information. So if I don't get back to you, if we don't get back to you real quick, just be very patient with us. We've been doing this a long time, and it has just been exploding. We're just exploding, getting a lot of feedback, and that feedback all needs to be looked at and analyzed. And then a lot of events are happening that we're trying to keep up with, and then we're trying to keep up with President Trump. And you know what that's like. He is just this Speedy Gonzalez. He is just the most amazing, fast moving president you've ever seen. And we're very fortunate to have him. I can tell you that. And we don't expect people to be perfect or anything like that. But our Congress has really failed us for so long. Um, the Senate Arms Committee, can you believe it, are the ones that promoted the likes of Sean Bernabe and Donna Martin promoted them, and David Stewart. These are the active duty. They promoted them for obstructing justice, for the worst type of crimes, and they need to be stripped from their uniforms, stripped. These are our uniforms. These are our uniforms, our stars, our benefits. This is what we provide them, and they have betrayed us. They have not defended the Constitution, which they took an oath to defend, and all the other training that we have given them in the creeds and everything, and the Medal of Honor ethos. They've betrayed that. No soldier left behind. They've betrayed that, and the Senate Arms Committee is up to no good, right? Is up to no good. And so to see someone like President Trump stand up to it, stand up to the fraud, the waste, the theft, the abuse, is very, very refreshing. And we're, doing as much as we can to to be part of his team, to help um, address all of this, these terrible crimes that have been done to our country and to our countrymen. Absolutely, to address that. And so there's no time to sleep. There's no time. You've got to keep up with all of this. Um, and for absolutely our major goal is to get Richard's remains back. Um, and a lot of restitution, a lot of restitution. They absolutely need to give Richard's um, character, which they did with the in the line of duty, because they just conducted a smear campaign on him. On top of everything, it wasn't enough that he had lost his life; they had to conduct a smear campaign. And but his ranks need to be given back to him and everything, and then we need to receive his remains, and we need to honor him um, with a burial, a proper burial. This is um, what we are fighting for, and then in that um, hard work, if we can help anyone else, if that um, in any way helps anyone else, then we're just very grateful to God for that. So it's been a wild day because late last night I received a a text message. I was born in White Sands. We have a lot of friends in El Paso, and since this all happened with Richard, we have a lot of friends in El Paso. And so I was texted late last night. Um, it was late, and I think it was 11 something um, El Paso time. So it was, and I was up. I was up here. I was right after the live stream because we are burning the midnight oil, right? And and it was about that the uh, in the El Paso Walmart case, they would not seek the death penalty for Patrick Crucius. And this is huge because what did that tell us? That told us that they were closing down the case. Okay, that's what that told us, that they would make a plea deal. They don't want to go to trial because the evidence would come out, right? The evidence, so much evidence. Just the forensic evidence would be damning enough. And then it would look very, very bad for the federal case. The federal case would look very, very bad. Patrick Crucius was sentenced to 90 life sentences, and half of those were for hate crime. And the evidence is overwhelmingly mitigating for him that it was not a hate crime, that he did not commit a hate crime, that he has no hate. That's just absolutely needs to be investigated and reassessed. And it's just that's not even including the mitigating evidence coming out of the federal courthouse itself with Michael Maiella's family, his daughter married to Patrick Crucius's brother, and them living very close together in San Antonio, and absolutely knowing Patrick Crucius. And now with this, uh, not seeking the death penalty, you have, I think it was reported in 2023, they had already spent taxpayers' money about $30 million on this. And now we have 2025. It has been absolute, and how many more years can you give them? I mean, they've given him about, not quite, but almost 7,000 years in prison. I don't think he can serve that long in prison, naturally, right? They've given him everything they could give him. And now they continue with this media, um, absolutely defamation in the media. And, if Patrick Crucius was in his right mind, and he's not in his right mind. He has severe autism. He has other severe mental health conditions on top of that, since early childhood. It has already been reported in the hearings that his parents were told that they shouldn't have let him live when he was a child, sickly as a child. He has, a lot of mental health issues, not issues, conditions, and we know from many audio recordings that we have, that he didn't even learn how to speak until much later in life, 6 years old or so, when he just even learned how. And so that was very, very slow going. And that he was, and I'm not making any excuses for him. What I'm doing is I'm saying that there has been a weaponization, there has been an injustice done in our judicial system, that they have not tried this case properly, that they have not given the public the evidence. And the evidence is, when you look, you can find it. There's so much evidence that gives a different narrative than the false narrative, clearly 100% clear false narrative that they keep feeding the public. This was in no way a white supremacist crime. This was in no way, if you're full of hate, and you're a racist or whatever. Am I allowed to say that word? I don't even know if I'm allowed to say the R word. If you're that, then why would you surrender twice? Twice, okay, two times, and the second time to a Hispanic officer, right? To a Hispanic officer, and then say, "Oh no, I don't have any racism in me," and yet the questions would be then who loaded up the 8chan, who wrote this um, screech, right? The screech, the manifesto, and loaded that up. Who is really handy and with computers like Michael Mayella Jr. or Dallas Hart or Jonathan Ambrose, or there's many others, and it could be someone I don't even know. Who loaded this up, because and then who paid for all of this, right? Who paid? They said that Patrick Crucius had no money at all to his name, not even a penny, not even a half a penny, not even a quarter of a penny that he had to his name. He had a goose egg. He had zero money to his name. And for that, they agreed. They said, yes, he has no money to his name, no value, nothing, and no bills, right? And here he is living in this very fancy apartment in San Antonio, and they say he bought a weapon, and he had this computer, and he had internet, and he uploaded, and he did this, and you know and yet they say he had not even a cent to his name, not even a half a cent to his name, not even a fourth of a cent to his name, nothing, that he had nothing to his name, not even a farthing, not even nothing. And that who was funding him then, who taught him how to shoot, who taught him how to organize this, who he had to be really, 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 really a great, great, great shot to have like 30 rounds, no other rounds on him in the picture, 30 rounds, and not have any shells in the back, but already a few victims out in front of the Walmart, and then coming into the Walmart to have maybe 27 rounds left, and be able to do the damage that he did with that, and very, very slick, where there's not a drop of anything that got on his clothes, not a drop of anything that got on his shoes, and all of these reports that were, very, like at very close range, but yet he was so slick, so, Teflon Patsy, that, he came out of there with not even a drop of sweat on him. So, you know, it nothing makes sense. The forensics doesn't make sense. The pictures don't make sense. The timing doesn't make sense. The two times that he surrendered, meaning, I mean, the time that he went in to buy an orange before it all happened, um, eh, you know, just really, really odd things. The lack of any security guard being in Walmart, which is, absolutely insanity because they do sell weapons and ammunition. There's just so much there to unpack. And when you do, you say, what? This case has been fed to us with lies. Fed to us with lies. And they had the right people chosen to do this. Judge Sam Madrano, Joe Spencer in the state case and in the federal case, which is, something that Judge Guadarrama, the federal judge, should not have even agreed to. And of course, in the federal courthouse, the right hand man for Judge Guadarrama that manages his court is right. His daughter is married to Patrick Crucius's brother, and yet um, Judge Guadarrama, sentences him to 90 life sentences. Half of those are for hate crime. When right there in his workplace in the federal courthouse is people, his family, Patrick Crucius's family, with mitigating evidence, mitigating testimony, um, planning a wedding, but mitigating um, testimony for Patrick Crucius and for Patsy, right? I think we should just call him Patsy. I think that that's just God wants us to call him Patsy. He signs his name Patsy, and what they've done to him, I think, is Patsy. So, and so for Bob Moore to, and of course, when they chose um, these individuals, they did some very, very odd things, illegal things, the backroom deals, the seals in the backroom deals, and the deals with even Guadarrama to not move this case forward. Um, and then, of course, this the gag order that was used primarily, in my opinion, against Yvonne Rosales. And but now I guess she's not there, right? Even though she is the legitimate holdover DA, right? But she's not there. She hasn't put on her heels yet. She hasn't, it's tough. It's really the way they harass you when you are targeted, and she was targeted. President Trump was targeted. Okay. Glennon Oakley Jr. was targeted. Richard Halliday was targeted, and Yvonne Rosales was targeted. There's not a doubt. And Judge Roger Rodriguez was targeted. There's not a doubt in my mind about that because the evidence speaks volumes of truth, speaks volumes of truth. And when you've been targeted, and of course we've been targeted also, it's been, you never want to live through that. Okay. I mean, you do want to live through it. You don't want to have to go through it. You want to live through it. And I guess you're stronger for it, right? We're always stronger for things that we go through. But when you're targeted, it is, Richard didn't live through it. They got him. Glennon Oakley Jr. didn't live through it. It is amazing that President Trump has lived through it. And so I understand why Yvonne Rosales hasn't put on her heels yet. Um, it is difficult. You really have to put on the full armor of God. You can't do it without the full armor of God. And you don't ever want to be targeted because by these people. I think they're trying to target Hegseth now. I think so. Um, so pray. Uh, it's just a terrible thing, and it's for billions of dollars. It's all for follow the money, billions and billions of dollars. Um, in this trafficking, cartel tied trafficking, open border trafficking um, enterprise that and I have to call it an enterprise because it is international and it's big. It's big. And so we have to fight, right? We have to, with integrity, with the law, even though they don't want to use the law. And this is what has happened. Bob Moore violated the gag order. There was a gag order, and it's been there since 2022. Primarily to target Yvonne Rosales. That's my opinion. Maybe Judge Madrano can say otherwise, say why he did that. The victims' families, the victims and the families of the victims were not allowed to speak about anything about the Walmart mass shooting outside of the hearings. And uh, but yet Bob Moore thinks that court orders don't apply to him, right? He's up to no good. He doesn't think, this is my opinion, that ethics applies to him because clearly in Richard Halliday's case, he had, um, was up to no good. And now he's up to no good again. And I want to go back to July 29th, 2020. July 29th, 2020. It was El Paso Matters that reported that Patrick Crucius's family was associated with someone very, very big in the judicial system here in in El Paso. Okay. Absolutely. It was that, and then of course a quid pro quo, um, because they didn't mention Michael Maiella's name or Alexis Maiella or Michael Maiella Jr. or, the other family members um, that are of age, right? Because there's younger that are of age and that, absolutely were adults and knew that it was wrong for them to keep the mitigating information from the public and to keep the information from the public that Patrick Crucius to, does have ties to El Paso. Very, very family ties to El Paso. And so that is, really egregious from Bob Moore, really egregious. And now to um, to break the gag order using a family member of a victim and not naming the family member, but the family member needs to be named because that member broke the even though he facilitated it, right? He facilitated it. He's the one that published it, but the family member we need to vet that, because he says it's from a family member that he got that information, but maybe it was from somebody else. So I think that that needs to be investigated because a big crime has been committed yesterday. And it was so big, we almost missed it, right? We almost missed it until I saw, I was reading through the articles and it talked about Montoya not being able to comment because of the gag order. And I was like, oh, yeah, the gag order. Oh, my gosh, yes. They violated the gag order. They violated and of the media. Okay, so that's why the media, all the other media just use Bob Moore's story. But I don't think that leaves their liability. I don't think that that does. I think that they, by posting Bob Moore's story, are still liable for this crime. Now, this is the big twist in all of this. This is how they work. And it so you think that's bad, and that is bad because that's obstruction of justice, right? That's obstruction of justice and some other things that I'll let the investigators and the legal team work out. But that is really, it is very, very criminal. Very clear for anyone to see that that's criminal. Laws for you, but not for me. And I'm Bob Moore. And who's behind Bob Moore that gives him this kind of, uh, protection, right? Who's behind it? That's a good question. So what happened today? So less than 24 hours later, but still later. It's too late, right? It's too late because it's the day after. Yesterday was the 24th, today is the 25th. Now it's 7 minutes after, so it's the 26th here. But for all purposes, it was the 25th that they came out, and they went to they I think when we posted, and I hate to give us credit, I really do because I don't know for sure, but it just looks like it in the timeline that when we went to KTSM, when we went to KVM, we called out the breaking of the violation of the gag order. When we posted on our Facebook page, and it's been such a crazy busy day. I needed to post it more, but when we posted that on the Facebook, who broke the gag order? Who broke the gag order? That, I'm sitting in my car, typing away here. Um, eh, that it's really crazy to think that we had the impact, but it looks like it. It looks like we impacted, we called out, we reminded everybody about the gag order with our post. And then they approached, they went to, maybe they ran, maybe they all ran over to Madrano. Judge Madrano, save us, save us. It's too late though, but maybe they want to manipulate timestamps again, just don't put on 2028, okay? 2028 hasn't happened yet, Madrano. Don't put on the 2028, okay? I mean, because they have been tampering with timestamps. They've been tampering with Richard's case. They've been tampering with the Patrick Crucius case. They've been tampering, tampering, tampering. Um, and withholding all this evidence and then lying, putting out a false, they're still, calling Patrick Crucius all kinds of names. And it's like, doesn't that family get upset? Doesn't that family get upset? I mean, that drives me crazy when they tell, I am all for, you know, okay, you can tell the truth about my children, but it has to be the truth. But this smear campaign lying, these egregious crimes like this R word, right? And this, all this whole thing with 23, 23 that lost their lives and uh, not even bagging his hands and what Christopher, Ernest Christopher Grant was saying about Patrick Crucius at the beginning, the most egregious criminal hateful activities that he was saying Patrick Crucius, Patsy was doing. Uh, Let me tell you, if I, no, no, you just let's say the truth. Let's say the truth. And if he was part of this, he needs to pay the price. But if 7,000 years and there's all this mitigating evidence that there were more than one and other things happened that they tell us that happened, yeah, that would, and it's very 100% they have been lying. 100%. There are so many lies in this case, so many manipulations in this case. And you have to remember that this case was put on top of Richard's case. Richard came first. He was reporting. The wind was at his back. There was investigations going on for what he was reporting, audits going on for what he was reporting. Smack, they laid over the Walmart mass shooting, and look at millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars later, they're like, okay, I'm going to violate the gag order. What are you going to do to me? I can just go to Judge Madrano and have him vacate the order. You know, Judge Madrano, help me now. Come on, quick. We didn't think this through. We needed to manipulate this earlier. Now we're going to have to maybe tamper with timestamps again. Can we tamper with dates? Can we tamper with dates? But the thing is the 7-day week has never been broken. The 7-day week. So they can't mess with it, even though they try, right? They try. 2028 hasn't happened yet. I mean, I think they want it to have happened because it's the stamp from the county clerk's office on Madrano's statement of officer, a 2028 stamp. Um, anyway, there's so much tampering going on. That's my point. And I get a little excited about all this criminal activity because I'm supposed to stay very calm. We need to address this legally. We need to get the agencies involved here to do their job. They've got to do their job. So we've got to stay very calm, right? And here, Madrano, what does Judge Sam Madrano do? He vacates the gag order. Now, wait a minute. This is I think we're in the golden age. I think we're in the golden age because we can see so clearly their crimes, right? And so many times, we're fooled, we're conned, we're so lied to, and we have to shake ourselves and say, wait a minute, we don't think criminally like they do. We tend to be naive, and at least I was, and try to believe them, try to believe that they're trying to help, give them the um, you know, at least a chance, right? The benefit of the doubt, and let's not rush to judgment or anything. They might be really wanting to help, but then of course they had uh, bad intentions. They had bad intentions, and so with Judge Sam Madrano, with him complying to their begging for a vacate, and I don't want to say begging because maybe they weren't begging. Maybe they had to do was say, "Hey, Sam," and he's like, "Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, okay, we can vacate." Maybe they didn't have to beg him. Maybe he just was very, very, very compliant to them vacating the gag order. And so what happens then? Well, that's called lawfare. That's called lawfare. He's a judge. He's part of the judicial system. What did President Trump just sign? The executive order against lawfare. That's lawfare. So now you have this huge crime of a violation of a gag order, right? And who was this family member of a victim that leaked this confidential information to Bob Moore. Hey, Bob Moore, you know, uh, and 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 he rushes to the desk to print it out. I mean, we contacted him. We attempted to contact him. We did contact him. We wrote numerous times, way over 15 times, right? Over 15 times. And, did he respond? Did he rush to his desk to say Richard Halliday was found in the line of duty at the time that he lost his life. Did he say that? That's huge. No. So this person um violates the gag order, so he says, right? Leaks it to him, calls him up, he gets it, leaks it to him. He rushes to the desk. He rushes to beat everybody. To violate the gag order, to violate a court order. And they're like, okay, yeah, Bob Moore, have at it. The media's like, have at it. Oh, yeah. Well, if he can do it, well, at least we can share his story. But no, they're liable. They do they not have any ethics? Is it always fake news? Is it always, this manipulated? It's just so frustrating to see how our media works and that we can't trust it, that he's discredited, that he's disgraced, and that we're right about it. And here we are, we're right about it again. But then on top of that, even a worse crime was committed. A very compliant to the illegality, compliant to the violation of his own gag order, compliant to the leaking of confidential information to media that rushes to violate a court order. You have a compliant judge that's willing to be compliant to them, and even not even compliant, but do what he absolutely can to cover for their crime, to and in doing that commits an even more egregious crime called lawfare. Lawfare. And it was like right in the news. I mean, he was just warned. He was just warned. Judge Madrano was just warned not to commit lawfare. And yet he did it anyway. It was just in the news that President Trump signed the executive order that you cannot use the weaponization of the judicial system. You cannot engage in lawfare. And what does Madrano do? He engages in lawfare, even with the warning. And why does he do it? To support the violation of a gag order and a family of a victim leaking confidential information without any consideration of the other families and their privacy, without any consideration of the gag order, without, which is the law. No, I'm glad the gag order now is vacated, because now all the family members legally can go to KTSM or El Paso Inc. or El Paso Matters, or, they could go anywhere now and give an interview. Let's see it. Let's see it. I'd like to hear all of their stories, because the truth needs to come out. Needs to come out. And this is, and the truth needs to come out in Richard's case. And I just want to say thank you so much to all the people that have been reaching out to me since we had this very viral post on Lieutenant General. He was promoted for it. Um, on Lieutenant General's Sean Bernabe's, just a little more than 10 points. And there's so much more, y'all. There's so much more. It's more egregious than you even know. There's some things that we just didn't think should be added for public, because we have to protect our army. We have to protect our army. And in order to protect our army, we need to, we said enough about Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, enough that he needs to be court-martialed, enough that he needs to be out of that uniform, out of any kind of leadership role, out of our beautiful stars, and not given any kind of benefits, any kind of benefits at all, because of his betrayal, because of the crime. Because don't forget, and this is one thing that I didn't add, and but I can tell you about it, is that it was under his command that that emergency intake center was built in order to house as many as 10,000 children at a time, and hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked through Fort Bliss, and the most horrible things, y'all, that they are now mostly all presumed dead. And I know that they've been like, oh, I think we found this many, this many. Um, you're talking about hundreds of thousands, 10,000 at a time. It's, yeah. And of course, Richard warned him about that, and he wanted to come and visit us um, here in South Carolina. Um, and we refused his visit because we knew what he was going to do. We already knew that what he wanted, and it was so bad. We helped him out. We helped Sean Bernabe out by refusing his wanting to come and meet with us, because he had done so much damage already. So much criminal activity in our uniform, on our dime, with our stars, with our most valuable assets. Yeah. So we're very grateful to everybody for sharing that post. Um, it's been huge, and we're very, very grateful, because we feel that so many lives will be saved if we get accountability. He's dangerous. I'll say that again. Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe is dangerous. He should not be in any kind of leadership role. He has no integrity, and he is absolutely compromised. Absolutely. Let's see now. See what okay, thank you so much. Okay, Anicia, thank you so much for your prayers and your love, and Danielle too for all your prayers, and continue. Aaron Turner left that base last year. Always had a feeling something was up with that base. Hated my time there. We've heard that over and over again, Aaron. You are absolutely right. Should be pushed to the Sean Ryan show. Thank you, Aaron. That would be an honor to be on Sean Ryan's show. I think Sean Ryan has a remarkable audience, a really remarkable audience. Aaron Turner says, just like Brad Geary and his case with the Navy blaming him for the death. Yeah. Let's see. And the cover up. Yeah. It is, they did so much harm to our military, right? Navy, Air Force, Army, Marines, Coast Guard, uh, what's the space one? Space. They 4 years of absolute hell for them. So and you know this whole thing for the Cobra strikes, and if people that watch absolutely know what I'm talking about. For healthy young people, that was the most ridiculous thing. And now we're saying that what we were saying back then 4 years ago, we're now exonerated, and we've been right. So that's good. God bless you for your persistence. Thank you so much, Olga. Thank you so much, and thank you for posting. Um, that has helped so much. All the sharing and posting really helps. Aaron Turner, if it wasn't for the Sean Ryan show, his case wouldn't have gotten to where it's at. I'm really going to look into that, Aaron. Thank you so much for that tip and investigating anything else um, he's had oversight on. Absolutely. And we to to be honest with you, I think that he knows about this case. This case is the that's why I I don't hesitate to say that this case is really the biggest scandal in US Army history. I really believe that. It's so delicate because it is so big and it's international and it has to do with the cartel ties to the military, to the trafficking, to the emergency intake center, to the Walmart mass shooting, to the ISDs, to, yeah, and to the Santa Teresa International Jetport, um, then into Mexico, right? And into Mexico, and also has to do with other countries. Absolutely has to do with other countries. And so, and the intelligence community, it has to do with the intelligence community. Don't forget Jules Tugadon Chan, um, you know, and his part in the aftermath of the Walmart mass shooting case, or being there, being one of the first people there, and then also his part in the emergency intake center, his role in that, and of course his role of putting together Fit Fam El Paso, and or or helping with that or whatever, him and the brother. And that intelligence community, the Epic being part of this, it's just an ATF. I mean, 15 plus agencies just at the very first meeting. There's no other case. We've looked and looked and looked. That's why I can say this. No other large case has ever had this much involvement with agencies and organizations and Interpol and all of that. No other case. And so that's why when this exploded yesterday, or went viral yesterday, I said this now is the biggest scandal in US Army history, and they have to address it, because lives are at risk and national security is at risk. This has to do with the border. This has to do with the breaches in security on Fort Bliss, the 14-year-old girl that was living in the barracks, our soldiers that were out in the field that got the antifreeze poisoning because 12 of them, I believe it was 12 of them, from drinking grog out of a sealet. um you know it, and it just goes on and on. You cannot ever forget Glennon Oakley Jr., right? You cannot forget that beautiful man. I'll never be able to. And of course, Asia Graham, and I can go on and on and on with all of the names that I've gotten to know, um, these victims, and so we can't stop. This has to be addressed, and Secretary of Defense Hegseth has to, and I'm sure Fort Bliss was his first stop. Okay. Fort Bliss was his first stop. Um, and on January 20th, President Trump took his oath of office. On January 24th, 2025, Richard, we received Richard's declaration in the line of duty, that he was found in the line of duty at the time of his death. And that is really, really important, that 4 days after, and don't forget the first day, the Sinaloa cartel were designated as the Big T group. And and we have the whole Nadal Baim thing in this. And Nadal Baim is a Palestinian, with a record, and connected. Talk about breaches of security, and connected to, the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3. That's operations, y'all. That's operations in Richard's command, the AAMDC. Um, that's air defense. That's air defense, right? That is such a breach of security. So everything surrounding Richard is a breach, and what happened on Fort Bliss is a breach. What happened at the border is a breach, and this is absolutely a constitutional crisis. This is a national security crisis, and then they tried to cover it up. We had Judge Roger Rodriguez call us a key witness whistleblower who identified the suspects in our son's murder case, and then he was blocked. He was retaliated against. His file from Richard's file, his testimony from Richard's file, um, whitewashed when Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, at that time Major General Sean Bernabe, passed by his own hand into the cold case homicide unit CID agent Todd Howell. And when we talked to Todd Howell, and this is all on audio, um, he says he never even heard of the key whistleblower, Judge Roger Rodriguez. He didn't know. Identifying suspects, a CID agent, no less. A CID agent was identified as being a suspect with evidence in our son's murder case. And Todd Howell is saying, "Oh, I don't know, no." And of course, Leilani Hart, who is a convicted criminal that confessed to the worst type of crimes against children, and she needs to be arrested, right? She needs to be arrested. So that that's where we're at. We have a judge that just committed lawfare, um, and a media that just thinks they're above the law, that they can just publish anything, even violate a court order, a gag order. And we have, you know, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, who absolutely needs to be out of any kind of leadership role, period. Right? He needs to go get some other different job, or well, he needs to be he needs to be court-martialed. I think it's treason. And a lot of people have talked to me about Leavenworth. Um, you know, it's very bad what he did, and I'll leave that to the legal community, or the JAG office, to determine um, what type of uh, eh, uh, accountability that they need to mete out to someone that has done such terrible, terrible things. So, thank you so much. Any other questions? Is still big even when down there. I was at a bar with junior enlisted soldiers, and I had to tell them, "Let's go cause one," said there was a type of guy snorting coat. That's why I didn't bother to go out anymore. Yeah, they have like blocks of it, right? And it's all in the this is what I've been told, and even by, General Stewart, where, the barracks were flush with weapons. We have the 14-year-old girl living in the barracks for 4 months. 4 months. I can't even imagine the torture. And and that because of the deaths and things like this, that the drugs are rampant. And of course, Boleyn knew drugs up and down and every which way, you know. She knew every name, whatever. And so it's a huge problem. They did not follow the SOPs for the barracks. They absolutely left our military base unsecured, and the worst type of things happened, like the um, in the line of duty, Richard stood up towards these cartel tied criminals, traffickers, um, and he was retaliated against, and he lost his life. And that can just not be go unaddressed. No, we need accountability. So thank you so much. God bless you all, and keep praying and keep sharing, because we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And you see the media, you see the fake news media, or the media that is compromised, right? They're compromised. They rather post discredited, disgraced Bob Moore's screed, right? And breach, violation of a gag order, right? Than real stories. Real stories. And I know it's a real story that they're not seeking the death penalty, but he did it wrong. He could have waited a couple days. He could have gotten permission. He could have, and the same thing with the other medias. And they're not posting what they should. It's the people, it's the social media that is sharing, that is posting, that is getting the truth out. And so, thank you so much for your comments and your shares. And, we're just move forward and um, drive our agencies, and to do the right thing, legally. And while doing it, hopefully God will weed out all these bad players. And now you see, Madrano just exposed himself to, a major problem. Lawfare. Thank you so much. God bless you.